The former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has said that all Africa are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. And he was saying that the youth has nothing to lose, especially on this protest that is coming. Now let's have the video.
Warning about this. And all over Africa, we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder because the youth, and there's virtually no exception in Africa where the youth are not angry. They are unemployed. They are unempowered. And they see nothing other than hopelessness. And in a situation like that, what you have from frustrated youth is anger. And when they have no hope, and if you really want to kill any human being, take hope out of his life.
Yeah.
And that is what is happening.
And they have nothing to lose.
And they have, well, if you have nothing to gain, you are jobless, you are not empowered, you are in poverty. And then you see your leaders, some of them in obscene affluence. Then what do you do? You are a human being, and the resources of your country is provided for that country by God for the benefit of all the citizens of that country.
Absolutely. I remember in 2011 when the Arab Spring was sweeping across North Africa, and then you came to Kenya a couple of years later, and we were talking about that, and then you coined a phrase that I remember all to this day. You said, from the Arab Spring, there'll be an African.
It's the beginning. And if no adequate attention is paid to the needs of the youth in Africa, the autumn will turn to winter.
And it'll be ugly.
It will be very ugly.
All right, welcome back. So the former, the ex-president of Nigeria was saying, he wasn't speaking entirely directly on the protests coming up in Nigeria, but then to some extent he has spoken of a lot of things that has happened all over Africa. The Kenya protests, the Senegal people, how they were able to, how the president emerged. And we're just going to quickly relate it to what is currently happening. You know, when he was asked about what the youth stand to gain or what they stand to lose, he said, when you have nothing to gain, of course, you definitely have nothing to lose as well, as long as you keep on fighting to ensure that you get what you want. What are your thoughts concerning this? You can do well to join us in this conversation in the chat box. But then let me come to you on your thoughts on what the ex-president has said. You know, he wasn't entirely direct, but don't you think to some extent, if he had been direct, Nigerians can see that we are beginning to have somebody at the upper hand speaking directly to Mr. President, because it looked like the father of all godfathers is now the one in position with nobody to talk to him. What are your thoughts?
You see, this so long this administration is still an administration that can fight, can go all out against anyone that is not singing their praises, is the reason why many people are still silent. And it's the reason why people are not going direct in their approach to anything that is going contrary in the country. From what he has said, he is not just a politician, but a father, like he said. Even in the system, he knows the corner. All right. But you see, this talking about the protests and about what he said, he addressed or called sitting on keg of gunpowder. You know, it's quite unfortunate that even those that are in power, people who are directly sitting on this keg of gunpowder, they are not even seeing it coming. Now, people even people in other in outside the country are seeing this thing. Now, we all know that in Nigeria today, the revolution that the people of Nigeria are looking for currently is long overdue. All right. So I want to see what the ex-governor, as ex-president said as a situation where if we had a president, if we have a president who listens to people, I'm sure somebody of his kind stand in a position to still give him advice, even though he's not directly working with him. You see somebody he can, that can go to him based on experience. There's this saying that a new broom may sweep clean, but it is the old one that knows the corner. He has been in that place long before him. He's somebody that can call him to say, this thing that is happening is, if you don't give attention to it, it's going to, reduce the country to something else. But we seem to have a president who is not listening, because him too, of course, based on the name he has given himself, or the name is called, the Jagaban, he's seen himself as, father of the game. So of course, no one can talk to him except anyone talking to him and singing his praise, even while or when he's doing the wrong thing. That is what we see playing out, that this thing that is happening is not only going to end in Nigeria, honestly speaking, because there are so many countries, this corruption has eaten so deep in Africa. There are so many countries that after this protest, after what is going to happen in Nigeria, based on this protest will happen, other countries will equally emulate it. That is what the ex-president is saying, that Africa is sitting on the keg of gunpowder. And if nothing is done to address this matter, it is going to escalate into the unthinkable. So we urge the federal government to take action, in as much as there is nothing that can be done already, but at least let them come out with good measures. Of course, there are things that will come out and Nigerians will say, yes, these people have, let them come out with good measures and attack the situation, and not something to attack the people. Whatever they are coming out with from their meeting should be a thing that will attack, or system, ideas, plans to attack the situation, the problem, and not the people, because the people are not the problem.
All right. There's been a lot of, because I'm actually looking at what he has said. He said all over Africa, we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. And you see that over time, Nigerians are not only Nigerians. Over time, what we see happening is that a lot of African countries has not really been sensitive to the needs of our people. We can see the case of the Senegalese people. The then president in Senegal he frustrated the Senegalese people to the point that he had to, to the point that he had to keep on postponing the presidential election. He postponed the presidential election to the point that the people had to come out to say, no, we don't want the postponement of this presidential election any longer. Keep it as it is. Keep the date as it is. We want to have this election. And we see that on the long run, the presidential candidate was arrested. He was released 10 days to the day they had the election. Why was he released? He was released only after the people came outside to protest. We see the people of Kenya. There has been a lot of imposition of taxes on them. They've been complaining on a very minor level. They complained on this. The president refused. After a little complaint for a while, then he would say he would remove the tax. There was taxation on pads, sanitary pads that women could not even afford. There was taxation on cooking oil that they could not even afford. Taxation on the things that they eat, things that are not even available. But the leaders were not taxing themselves. The leader insists on the things that they want to do. They insist, the Kenya president, they increased his own salary, the salaries of his cabinets by over 30%. He increased the salary of his lawmakers. Why that increase? And you keep on taxing the people. And you see that when the financial bill was passed, the people had to come out in large numbers that why would you keep on doing this to us? So we see that the only language that the African leaders has been able to understand so far is the language of force. It is the language of protest. It is the language of coming out to protest in large numbers against the things that they are doing to them. The same thing happened in Mali. Protesters demanded that the government should defy European Union and France and enter security agreements with Russia in the fight against terrorists. And there was protest between May and October. That was around last year. And the anti-France protests were held, especially in Bamako. We see that even in Burkina Faso or thereabouts, there was protest. Why do we have to venture into protest before we get what we want? So the ex-president has not said anything wrong by saying that these people has pushed the youth to the wall because they have nothing to lose. If they are first, they are jobless, they have no job. The governments are not even looking at ways to provide jobs for them. The governments are not looking at infrastructure. They are not looking for ways to ease the youth of what they are experiencing. So currently, they have nothing to lose. If they had a job to do, that they are earning well to some extent, they wouldn't have come outside to say they want to protest against hardship. But because there is nothing for them to do, how do you, since they have nothing to lose at all, what they are gaining is that they have come outside to express their grievance. So I concur with the ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo on what he has said. But to some extent, it would have actually been nice at a time like this that he can be speaking directly to the Nigerian government. Yes, Tinubu may be the father of all godfathers, but it doesn't mean that other godfathers cannot begin to talk about it. Yes, to some extent, some people are looking at Tinubu coming into power is going to put an end to godfatherism because nobody can control him. But do you see where lack of authority has led us in Nigeria? If at all he has somebody he submit to, a lot of those people would have come outside to speak to him on what is currently happening. And yesterday on the Voice of the People radio station, somebody was saying the Mr. President's son should at least be able to speak with him. How can you speak against what divide itself? The devil cannot cast the devil because they are all in one accord. There's no how they can cast and bind themselves. Do you see what is happening? So it would have been nice that we still have to some extent, some of these people who also know so well about politics, who know the repercussion of what Mr. President is doing, could have to some extent spoke to him. But then, even if they are not speaking to him, the voice of the Nigerian people is still very loud. They are speaking for themselves. So I concur with him on what he has said. The youth has nothing to lose, but they have a lot of things to gain for coming out to fight against this administration, especially to end bad governance. On this segment, we'll be going on a quick break now, and as soon as we get back, we'll dive into another conversation. So please stay tuned with us, and we will be right back.